Was so outside of the reality that I had known. I mean, I knew he was a heroin addict, but what do you mean you're a mafia hitman? He hasn't told me a number, but he says it's, more than two hands. It's like you would do these movements, they would be called forms for like hours at a time. Like he would just do one thing like this for an hour at a time. It almost puts you in like some like possessive trance. And so I think he was able to use that technique because he did it for so many years to kind of flick on the good parts and flick on the bad parts.
Yeah.
Regular suburban middle class family, but he had this whole second life that he kept hidden. It's one of the reasons why he was a drug addict. It's because there's a lot of pressure there to keep secrets, which, anyone who's trying to keep a big secret like that knows it's not easy to do. And it didn't help that, my mom was kind of like ignorant by choice a little bit. She probably could have asked a lot of questions and she probably could have seen some signs along the way, but she was just living her like, suburban mom raising her kids life. Husband was the provider and, she trusted him and there were no questions asked. And the kind of what also made it, I would say, even more possible to keep it secret is his job as a firefighter paramedic. That schedule alone allows for so much time away from home because typically a
Sure.
schedule is like 24 hours on the job, 48 off, or somewhere in there, right? So it's easy for him to say, I got 48-hour shift, and then just who knows what he's doing. Maybe 24 of it's working, the other 24 he's doing some job.
But what was your reaction though? I guess
Mm.
shocked, stunned, upset. I mean, there's a whole
Completely
gamut of stuff.
shocked and numb. Felt like watching a movie, you know, like you're watching a story take place and you're not connecting it to reality in any way because it was so outside of the reality that I had known. I mean, I knew he was a heroin addict, but what do you mean you're a mafia hitman? What are you talking about,
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean, I
was
guess he's
weird.
killed many people. I guess I would have thought.
I mean, he hasn't told me a number, but he says it's, more than two hands. I mean, and this is like a several year long process of him telling me these stories and then taking a long time for them to for me to really process them, and accept them as real. And so that was my question. I was like, well, how could you even do that? And I discovered something really interesting that is in one of the episodes that he was a fourth degree black belt in something called Chung Mu Kwan, which is some very obscure martial arts form that was started in Chicago by what was eventually considered a con man and a convicted felon. But basically, it was like a cult, and the way he would do these like mind control tricks, basically. And the way my dad describes it, and it sounds ridiculous, but when you hear it in the
Sounds totally
episode, it
legit. Yeah.
makes perfect sense. But so basically, it's like you would do these movements. They would be called forms for like hours at a time. Like he would just do one thing like this for an hour at a time. It almost puts you in like some like possessive trance-like state. And once you do that,
Right.
it's like meditation in a way. And once you do that enough, you can flick it on and off. And so I think he was able to use that technique because he did it for so many years to kind of flick on the good parts and flick on the bad parts when he needed him,
Sure.
and then he can kind of move, like wake up the next day like nothing happened kind of thing, and raise a family or turn it back on and go out and kill somebody.